Welcome. We are live. There we go. All right, nice to be here this evening. We're gonna have a great talk today. As we give a moment or two to allow people to join. And if you are joining us, make a comment about live. If you're live, hashtag live. If you are watching the replay, make a comment that says hashtag replay. And I'll take a look and see who we got here. Alrighty. So if you're joining, definitely thank you for coming out and tuning in. This is one of my favorite talks ever to do. I'm so passionate about this information that I've literally dedicated my whole life into the inquiry of how our consciousness evolves. And I'm very excited to share all of what I've learned through my healing practice, through meditation, through all the research and experience, through public speaking, big group events, my group channelings, and everything else in between, to share with you all of the most important and necessary details about what we're doing here on Earth and how we make the most of our consciousness. So, a lot of you know me, but for those of you that don't, I am Joseph Adams, and I've been doing this work for nearly a decade at this point. And I couldn't be more excited about the position that we are all in on this incredible journey of being alive at this very, very powerful, magical, beautiful, and definitely challenging time frame of our existence. So once again, if you're just tuning in, make a comment, say hello, say where you're from, and we'll see where everybody's at. And then we'll jump into the bulk of what it is we're doing here. So, and I'm over here in the south, in Florida, Southwest Florida. Alrighty. So, what we're about to do here is we're going to talk about the foundational information that allows our consciousness to ascend and the ways in which our awareness reacts with our body, reacts with others, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, and the grand scheme of how the design of our energy unfolds with time, with experience, with choice. All of these factors add into the equation that gives us an inertia. It gives us a momentum to our lives, to our energy, to the choices we make, and to the way in which the world views us and sees us. So first and foremost, all of my information comes from experience. It comes from the thousands of hours of meditation that I've done. I specifically tune out the majority, 99% of all other conscious creators, with the exception of these books back from the 80s called The Law of One, which is pretty much the only material that I really refer back to. Everything else comes from my direct experience through learning, growing, and the expertise through my meditation practice is where the beauty of being able to practice what I preach, to practice exactly the things that I'm teaching about. So that all the information that we're about to go over today, I've put it to test. I've put it to my truth. So I just want that to be known, that this information is not diluted. I'm going to speak from a place that is directly from my experience, and you'll see and hopefully feel the authenticity behind that, because when we tune into people's experiences, like as they convey them, it brings you on a journey. When you listen, when you connect in with everything that we're doing here tonight, when you connect in and listen, it can almost bring you along as if you're along for the ride of the story and the information that's going to be shared this evening. So this lecture, this talk we're going to do today, is called The Emotional Keys to Ascension. And this is the foundation to pretty much all of my work, because it includes the most important and oftentimes looked over important constructs, not only to our awareness, but our reality in this dimension. Because there are controls, there are very specific goals, there are very specific challenges, there are very specific dynamics in the way in which our consciousness reacts to choice, and how our consciousness reacts to very specific frequencies of emotion that create different perspectives of life. So with this information, you'll be able to see a little more clearly the design of our minds. That is the goal. The goal is to help people understand that there is a design to our minds, the way in which we evolve, and there is a way in which we can ascend. There's a way in which we can understand our awareness and to be more proactive in the way in which we dictate the choices we make. So with that being said, we are here with the Emotional Keys to Ascension, and this is the first week to a 4-month long program. So I always want to share this with everyone, because I believe that even with this bulk of knowledge, is going to create a lot of stronger connections. It's going to give a lot more insight. It's going to be a little more clear for those who are on the path and who want to take the path even deeper. So I can always tell who has been exposed to the law of one, because the law of one describes the universe. It describes unity. We all come from one. But through that one and through that truth stems a whole broad range of characteristics of how we evolve back into that. And that's where we get the discrepancies between the different teachers, the different philosophers. And I can always tell who understands the law of one, because it's inherent. And we're going to make that clear, and I'm going to share all the most beautiful parts of it with you that will make this a much easier understanding of what it means to be alive and what we're doing here. Because this should be very, very exciting. The fact that all this information isn't that easily found and understood properly, it just blows my mind, because with a little bit of discipline and practice, the amount of suffering that you can relieve, the amount of energy that you can tap into, you can literally experience the most incredible, mystical, magical experiences, different emotions that don't even have vocabulary, that don't even have descriptions yet, because they're just so tucked away inside of our being. And bringing that out is just a few short steps and processes away of organizing your mind and understanding the way in which it moves upwards. So with that being said, we begin. So this is the Emotional Keys to Ascension. And when we look at the whole, when we look at reality, all is consciousness. This is something everyone speaks on. It's all consciousness. It's all one. But within that one, and in this very specific dimension, we have a few different ways in which consciousness has manifested. And We can describe those layers of consciousness with the different densities. So it all begins with first density consciousness. We have the elements. We have water. We have fire. We have earth, air. We have ether. That's a realm of consciousness. And the way in which the water runs has a set of laws, a set of rules that it governs the water. The way in which the air moves through the land is another way. And being in connection to the elements is a direct connection to the Creator. But we're so disconnected from nature that the voice is tucked so deeply that we can't even hear it anymore. We can't even hear it anymore. And that leaves us disconnected from an energy source, from a form of wisdom, a form of support that can guide your mind, that can guide your energy. But we're stuck indoors. We're stuck in these urban centers, and that part of learning becomes a little bit more difficult unless we go out in nature, reconnect to all of the life that is out there that's continually speaking to us, continually. But our ears are deaf, and it's hard to hear. But learning from the elements can produce harmonic lessons. It can produce harmonic lessons. But it's, as I mentioned, it's a little difficult to first learn to tune in to the elements. But with the elements that I just listed, we also have crystals. Crystals are another form of the elements in which we're all attracted to crystals. And they're playing such a pivotal role in the awakening of human consciousness right now, because in the most simplest of terms, crystals are providing amplification. That's what they're doing. Because the human collective, humanity as a whole, is producing a call of help, of service. As all of us, our subconscious minds are yearning for help. We're saying, please, higher consciousness, please, divinity, please give us some assistance in the awakening of our consciousness. And that's why we're all connected to the crystals, is because they provide a much needed and very easy to obtain catalyst. And for some of us who find the highest dimensional crystals or tektites, it can actually produce so much for our soul so that we can continue that transformation. Because in this dimension, you need catalyst. You need something that causes a charge of energy to want to move and to want to evolve. And just look, and as a reminder, just look at what happened with Moldavite. There's a tektite from outer space called Moldavite, mistakenly called a crystal, but it's actually a tektite, a impact glass, and that meteorite is providing one of the biggest spiritual catalysts that the world can probably get their hands on. In the advent of TikTok and how a few Moldavite posts went viral, created this incredible demand, because everyone wanted to understand, what's that magic? Why did this individual have their lives thrown upside down? And they're seemingly relating it to this magical stone from outer space. But the thing is that it is very magical, and it is one of the most powerful tools that you can get your hand on. Even the smallest piece of it provides innumerous values for your soul's thirst to change. I've been working with Moldavite since 2014 and knew immediately that everyone needs to work with this crystal, this tektite. And I did, and I spread hundreds of pieces of Moldavite around. And then, years later, this massive resurgence. So after Moldavite, working with those crystals, the soul has that need to want to change, to want to evolve. And that's one of the most important roles that crystals are playing. But next, when you look at consciousness, the next layer of consciousness, we have plants, we have animals, we have fungus. And you always got to give a shout out to fungus, because we wouldn't have the earth without fungus. So But there's a little bit more variance, there's a little bit more play, a little bit more experience that comes from that level of consciousness. Now, geometry can explain the jump from the elemental consciousness to the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom consciousness, okay? And yet these forms of consciousness are still in harmony. And this is what's key, this is what I want you to take away from this, is that there is harmony within those kingdoms, those separate kingdoms. Those levels of harmony are very important, because when you start to introduce human consciousness, this is where things get a little bit more complex. Is because when you look at animals, when you look at plants, you will never see a cat that has to learn how to be a cat. You're never going to see a tree that has to learn how to be a tree. There's no journey in becoming. There's no inner path to their own evolution. They're already whole and complete. But they do have variance. They do have wisdom that can be acquired. But for the most part, those forms of consciousness are in harmony. Now, when you get to third dimensional consciousness, this is where you get to the human. This is where you get to humanity, human consciousness, is that we are in a disharmonic state of consciousness. And that within this realm of consciousness, we are striving, we are on the inner path, striving to understand exactly what it means to become yourself. You may spend your entire life unpacking, integrating, expanding, just to get this aha moment. This is who I am. And this is where it gets very helpful, because when you learn to listen, to Mother Nature, to study animals, to study plants, you will see a divine perfection. And you can learn from that perfection. And those lessons will always be a reflective force that gives you just enough information to give you a little bit more clarity. And that's why when you work with crystals, everyone loves them so much. And when you work with a strong crystal, it's reflecting back harmonic energy, and you're learning to adapt your awareness to the new frequencies that you're picking up on, thus creating a new perspective, a new shift in awareness. And then after that, you can learn to actually bring that energy into your system and replicate and expand and become the actual frequency of the crystal. So that's just one practice that you can do when working with crystals. But this is what's important, is just to recognize that all is one, but we have these varying degrees of harmony within our dimension. So we're striving for harmony. We're striving for harmony. So as we go on our journey, we're trying to evolve. We're trying to have the necessary catalyst. We're trying to understand the rules, the regulations, the structures of this dimension. And we have a couple of fundamentals that are key to this dimension. And the first one, we all know, we've heard this so many times: love is the answer. Love is the answer. You know, that's such a cliche thing we've all heard so many times that we're almost jaded by it. Because for a lot of us, we are stuck in survival. We're stuck in a state of self-preservation, let alone trying to love everything. We're stuck in a way of, I need to find my next paycheck. I need to find my next meal, or I'm not going to have a place, and this is going to be a very dire situation. So it's a little misleading, you know, especially in the culture and the way in which life is right now. We're far, you know, many of us may be a little far away from just jumping into this loving vibration. But in the end, the goal to the dimension is love, because that's how our consciousness harmonizes. We harmonize through the frequencies, through the vibrations of love. But where do we begin? What's the bottom layer of our consciousness? What's the bottom layer of our awareness? And this is what we need to know, because our awareness begins, this is the foundation to our higher consciousness. It begins in our ability to feel secure. Our security is key to our higher consciousness. And when you find your security, it does something to your nervous system. You're able to relax. You're able to get into the you're able to relax your nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. So finding security is important when you start your journey to evolving into harmony. So what is causing you the most insecurity? And when you look at what's causing you the most insecurity, this is where you're going to get the majority of your power back in life. Becoming secure. So when you do the shadow work, when you do the self-inquiry, I always recommend find what makes you most insecure as a human. And this is where you're going to make the most gains. Because who doesn't want to be secure? Who doesn't want to have that part of their energetic system relaxed? Because as I mentioned, our awareness is layered. And it's layered in a way in which when you have self-preservation constantly being pinged, constantly being challenged, if you're walking down a path and all of a sudden you're standing on top of a cliff face, hundreds of feet up, there's a form of awareness that's going to take over and guide you to safety. It's going to dominate that joyous moment you had, running through the wilderness, and all of a sudden, whoa, awareness slows down, collapses into self-preservation. I need to live. I need to survive. So that's the foundation. That's the root of our awareness. So begin your path as making yourself secure, because this is the foundation. And when you begin to meditate, and when you begin to practice your spiritual growth, you're going to be limited into how high your third eye can ascend. You're going to be limited into how strong you can love. You're going to be limited in the ways in which you can express yourself until you qualify that security. And you can do so with this very simple question I've heard from the Law of One, and it's stuck with me because it's so perfect. And it's, do you feel comfortable being alive? That's where it begins. That's such a loaded question. When you really meditate on that, analyze it, unpack it, unwind that question. Do you feel comfortable being alive? So that's the question that balances your root chakra energy. And for many of us who are fortunate, that energy, may never get challenged because we have the resources, we have the means to continue living. So, but as we continue to evolve our consciousness, we need to understand these first three layers, because these first three layers of our consciousness is where you're going to do the majority of your work, the majority of your inner work. So when you're calm, when you're secure, you can relax, and now you're able to move into the next level of your awareness. Your emotional body, your creative, your sexual energy, your desires. To simply put it, anytime you desire something, that's your emotional energy. That's the energy that's pinging forward. And we're trying to desire things, to have joy, to seek happiness, to seek pleasure. It's a big motivator. It's a very, very big motivator. I'm trying to feel happy. I'm trying to feel pleasure. I'm trying to feel sexual. Those are one of the biggest drivers of our awareness right there. And many of us get stuck in desire, because when desire becomes imbalanced, it leads to compulsion. And when compulsion goes unchecked, it leads into addiction. And when addiction goes unchecked, depression. So this energy is a very traumatized collective energy we have, because so many of us have emotional wounds. We carry them. You carry all of these wounds with you. All of the past is kept and collected and reflected in your field. It's so easy to feel the pain off of another individual. You carry all this information. But the goal here is to live with joy, is to choose and make those choices with sincerity. Sincerity is one of the emotional keys that helps keep our desires in check, because when you become the vibration of sincere, you're saying you don't know if something is good, bad, wrong, right. You're saying you say I need more experience, I need more wisdom, universe, or higher self. Sincerity is a very powerful emotion, because when we start abusing our desire, you start creating different voices that want different things. These archetypes of the mind will start to come out during different circumstances and have more say or more weight to pull your energy into a different direction, into a different choice. But sincerity is how you can pull back and find clarity and find that original, authentic voice that you have within yourself. And we all can benefit from being more sincere with ourselves and with those that we relate to. So sincerity is a very powerful emotion that helps keep us in truth, simplicity. So balancing this emotional body, how do we do it? What are we trying to aim for? To say it simply without getting too in-depth, self-acceptance is one of the biggest balancers of this energy. To accept yourself, to accept your emotional body as it is. Because when you have self-acceptance, you're pulling all of those voices in, those clear voices that just want joy. They inherently just want joy. Anytime you desire something, it's actually, you just want joy. When we seek and we have these earthly experiences and we embody them the best ways that we can. We're here for such a very, very short, limited time. So make your choices. Have no fear in your choices. Embody the joy that you get from your desires. Otherwise, you will create these shadows where we have a desire, but then we feel shame, then we feel guilt, then we feel embarrassment. So this is another very difficult part of our culture, is we're a culture with deep shame. It runs very deep, collectively. The state of the world that is in right now, the way in which we're being run, the way in which we're being guided, the way in which we force each other to live as a whole, is very shameful. So, the majority of your energy is going to be retrieved through clearing your shame, addressing the guilt, addressing the embarrassment. And that is all your happiness. Shame, guilt, embarrassment, that's actually just in the heart of the energy is joy, but it's stripped away, channeled into a different direction, and turns into those emotions. So, seek self-acceptance, work on those shadow emotions. Now, as our awareness continues to evolve, the next level up, so we have our ability to feel secure, we have the ability to accept ourselves completely, we have the next layer up, and this is our mental body. This is the next layer of our awareness. And the mental body is where the majority of the collective consciousness will be held back. Because if you cannot get beyond your thinking, if you cannot achieve a clear mind, then it will be very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to find a catalyst that will break you free of your mind, that will allow you to re-establish connection to your higher essence, to your higher power, to the divinity that rests inside of you. That mental body literally creates a cocoon, and you should understand your mind in these vibrations, these thoughts, these feelings. See them as spheres around your body. They encapsulate you. Think about it. Those who are trapped and stuck in addiction, it's a trap. It's your whole entire body is engulfed and contained in this vibration in which you're vibrating out this intense need for something. And that's all you can see in reflection. It's a trap. So see that vibration. Everything can be seen as an encapsulated vibration, encapsulated frequency. That's what it all means. We're learning to vibrate in a different way. When you vibrate in a different vibration, the wisdom and knowledge is contained in the sensation itself. So you don't have to know how gratitude works. You don't have to know how joy works. What's the definition of joy? What's the steps to get into it? You don't have to know. You just have to become it, because the wisdom and the experience are contained within it. So join in the frequency. Become the vibration. Become the frequency that you wish to be. And the experience, the way in which it will shape your perception, will change accordingly. There's no need to know. And this is one of the other fundamentals of the dimension, is that this is not the dimension of knowing. This is the dimension of choosing, of making choices that embody frequency, that create inertia. And when you embody a frequency, it shapes the way in which you make choices to have continued experience. Your experience is what shapes you. Your experience is what yields you to inner truth, not a knowing truth, not a let me read this on a text, let me go watch someone's video, let me go read someone's book, now I know it, so now it's my truth. It doesn't work like that. Truth is something that is relative to the individual through their experience. So, and that's another thing you can see when you meet someone's level of sincerity, when you meet someone's level of depth, of how well have they learned themselves. Because those truths, those inherent truths, they cannot be faked through the mind. The mind will play tricks. The mind will say, I know it's all one. I know the dimension's all about love. So I already know this. That means I'm already on this higher level. But this is where we see the dichotomy begin to emerge of what the mind does in the dimension. Because this is the dimension of choice, the dimension of duality. So that means there are two ways to evolve the mind. Your spiritual progress, your spiritual journey has two paths. And whether you understand this or not, you're learning to make the choices that place you on to your inertia, onto your side that you wish to evolve. And what's the choice? What's the final choice of the dimension? Well, this is what separates consciousness, is to be in service of others or to be in service of the self. Because when you start to only address yourself, only promote your own self needs at the cost of your reality and your experience, in which you see your experience and you make your choices to fulfill your own needs. And if you do this all of the time, not just for self-care, not just for self-preservation, not just for your own inner healing, but if you do this all of the time, then you become a self-serving alignment. And that self-serving alignment has a different magnetism than the magnetism of what we commonly know as the spiritual path, the spiritual growth, of learning to love, learning to connect through unity. And you'll see a lot of people speaking the right words, saying the right things, but energetically they are still somewhat in that self-serving, I need to fulfill my agenda over yours. And you'll feel that ping. This is what's most important about this dimension, is that distinguishing boundary that promotes your evolution of consciousness. Because when you start to understand yourself and to understand your choices about, this choice I'm making is my choice to heal the self, or to provide self-care, so that I can be more of a unified energy later. Because that boundary gets blurred. Am I in self-care? Am I self-serving? There's a lot of confusion. So the thing is that when you make a choice, you shouldn't have fear of that choice, embarrassment of that choice, shame of that choice. And this is where a lot of empaths, a lot of individuals on the unified service to others alignment get stuck, because they make choices that they're shameful of. They make choices that they feel bad because they did something good for themselves. And an enormous amount of power is lost because of their inability to be firm, strong in their truth of their choice. Their choices create static. They're not fully behind it. And you'll see the self-serving alignment. They make choices without thinking twice. Yes, I want to go make a sale, steal that individual's material, make a sale at my own benefit. Doesn't bother me, and they get fulfilled. They're actually rewarded. Our culture even promotes a self-serving living style. Look at the way in which we live. Our entire culture is a self-serving culture. Unless you find your own community and put the energy into foster specific connections. Otherwise, you need to go find your own home, you need to go find your own food, you need to go find your own everything. But there's nothing wrong with needing to do those things, because we all need to do those things. We all need action. But we're forced into that position without any choice. And now, on that same note, this is the poison of this generation: idleness, inaction. This is the most devastating thing you can do to your consciousness at this time frame. Idleness and inaction. Treacherous for your well-being, not doing anything, not making any choices. Because how the dimension works is when you start to make choices in your alignment, all of your choices become opportunities to further your inertia, your evolution. And there is no longer right and wrong. There's only opportunity for growth. But idleness and inaction are the most destructive forces that we have. When you think about it, how many of us are forced into that 9 to 5 and have absolutely no energy for self-care, no energy to do much of anything? And you go on, turn on your Netflix and binge for 4 hours before bed and do it all over. Think about how many millions of people have that repetition. How many creators, how many conscious creators are there even in this world? Because there's so many being pacified through the mechanism that keeps them contained. So remember that idleness, inaction are the worst things. You know, an angry person doing the best deeds is better than a very joyful person doing nothing. So remember that. It might not make sense, but it will if you practice. So next thing, so we have the first layers of our awareness. We have security, we have self-acceptance, and now what are we aiming to do with the mental body, with our mind, on our continued evolution of our awareness? So we are trying to achieve clarity. Clarity is the gatekeeper of higher consciousness. Clarity is what keeps us, clarity is what gives us the opportunity to open the window, to open the opportunity to experience a higher vibrational frequency of existence. But just because you can achieve a clear mind doesn't necessarily equal I'm going to evolve into higher states of transcendent consciousness. And this is where, it gets really complex. Like, there's such an intricate design in the way in which we need this constant flow of not only catalysts to promote that change, but also intention. You must have the intention for any of this to occur in the first place. If you do not have the intention to want to get better, or to want to grow, or to want to achieve truth, because that's what we're after truth. But if you don't have the intention or the desire to do so, all of your growth begins with desire. You will be matched by the universe with the strength of your desire. Another key to the dimension. All healing begins with the desire to do so. All shadow work, all integration work begins with the strength of your desire. Because the universe, this is a holographic universe right here. You're being reflected back your own energy. So clarity is what we're after. And I know it's very, very difficult for a lot of people. So many people get stuck in the mind. They don't know how to stop their thoughts. They don't know how to organize negative thought patterns. But for a lot of them, they've had these patterns and repetitions for years, maybe decades, talking down to the self, being overly critical, overly analytical. So it's going to take not the same amount of time, because you can do an enormous amount of inner work in actually a very short period with the strength of your desire matched by your focus. But it does take time to unwind that mind. And there are ways and practices that I teach as this course goes on about what can you do to give yourself better chances of understanding why your mind thinks the way it does. But as we continue this evolution, as we continue this practice, we have clarity. We understand the choice of the dimension, the most important choice. Am I in service of myself? Am I in service of others? This is what creates duality. This is what creates your opportunity to evolve. Because when you begin addressing your needs, your securities, your choices, your emotions, and you align them within that service, you build this inertia. And that inertia stays with you. It's not so binary where, I did a self-serving deed, I'm self-serving. It's not like that. It's something that's built and sustained over time, because it's a force that you're growing. And that force creates change and opportunity. So the next thing we want to learn is to understand that transcendence from the ego, from the mind, into the heart, because this is the goal. Remember, in the dimension, we're striving for the next harmonic position of consciousness. We're getting ourselves out of the mind and into the vibrations and frequencies of feeling. Feeling in itself contains far more experience. You can experience so much more through your feeling body than you can through your thinking body. You are limited by thinking. But when you begin to open up and unfold the emotional feeling body of your energetic being, this is where things begin to get interesting. This is where you begin to accelerate the amount of reality that you're taking in at any one time, and where your awareness becomes more and more aware of your surroundings, of your inner peace, and what causes reaction to your inner peace. And this is where we get to another of the laws of our dimension, is that we're striving to be in that non-reactionary state of consciousness. And what causes reaction to your peace, to your well-being, is your opportunity for growth. Because when you get into the full, loving, unconditional state of vibrating, it does not pick and choose who feels this love. You're vibrating for all of humanity. Non-reactionary, unconditional love. And we're learning to go from that thinking mind to that feeling body, from that left brain to opening up your right brain, the intuitive, the creative, the formless, to let go of that rigid masculine mind, that need to know point A to point B, no emotions, what is the goal, what is the solution, rigid skepticism. These are all imbalances of the masculine mind that need to be addressed on a collective level. Because the masculine mind thinks it knows everything because it can put it together in a linear way. This equals this equals this equals this. Nothing in this nature is a straight line. So that's one of the biggest hurdles that the collective is going to have to deal with. And more specifically for the masculine, for those of us who have more of a masculine mind, that's going to be the biggest hurdle. It's that constant need to know, that constant analyzing. But all the beauty, all the magic awakens when you begin to silence that thinking mind, just for a moment, to allow your feeling body to emerge. Wisdom needs to take a back seat to the present silence of your being. So that part of our mind needs to be addressed, is letting go so much of that rigid skepticism that the masculine mind has, that constant linear, I know everything, I'm very good at point A to point B, I can survive this and that and this and that. So we learn to let go a little bit of that, to open up the emotional, the feeling body, which can be very difficult, and some people may not even have access to those energies. They're so tucked away. The mind has created this landscape of what it wants itself to be. The ego has just marked its territory in the ways in which it thinks itself should be. And this is a big part of the spiritual path, is the unwinding through self-inquiry. Not just meditating, not just blanking your mind. You know, my meditation, I'm just going to be quiet, be silent, not do anything. But on the contrary, and this is actually something I more recently understood, that I was misusing the word meditation, where the majority of the growth that I've attained comes through self-inquiry. Through a silent, clear mind, I can inquire on a very specific emotional disturbance, or a past memory or a feeling, and inquire into that stimulation. What is the stimulation of desire telling me in this very moment? Why do I have this very specific need or thought form or behavior? And you inquire into that with your clear focus. Self-inquiry is going to be what gives you liberation from your suffering. Not blanking your mind and bypassing everything. Now, there's obviously a value in that, but it's through self-inquiry is where you're going to get your truth from. All right, so moving forward. Now that we're at the heart center, our awareness has evolved. We are in the heart space. We're learning to let go of the the mental body. We're learning to let go of the grip that the ego has on our choices, on our ways in which we think. We're learning to build inertia with our behavior. We're learning to understand the frequencies, the harmonic frequencies of the heart. And that is, these are the emotions, the feelings that harmonize every other part of your being. And that's obviously love, compassion, empathy, unity, and then a little slightly bit higher vibration of gratitude, admiration, reverence, appreciation. The love and the gratitude, they're very close, but any one of those vibrations, becoming any one of those vibrations, can harmonize your entire consciousness. Now, what happens when you become this supercharged up ball of light and you feel so much love for yourself or for others, and you're on the spiritual path? This is what happens, is that there is no linear path. There is no, I'm just going to evolve right on up into love and blast off and then my life is perfect. It doesn't work that way. It works in the way, this is what happens, is that you have this very strong experience of a harmonic frequency, and you charge yourself up from it, and that harmony draws out your imbalances to the forefront of your consciousness and awareness, so that you can begin acknowledging, so that you can begin the delicate and complex way of inner healing all those shadows and all those traumas, because you cannot hide from your traumas, you cannot hide from your pain. Because if you go down one of the most difficult paths, which is the spiritual path, you will be forced to reconcile, integrate, understand, and accept all of your experiences. But the higher power doesn't just release everything at once. Your pain, if you were to get all of your pain at once, you would probably die. It doesn't work like that. You would be overloaded on your nervous system and be a horrifying experience. So what the higher power does is, when you understand what's occurring, you have this big charge of light, and this happens to many people as they go through a full moon, they go through an eclipse, they have this beautifully powerful experience, only to be catapulted back down a month or two later in this treacherous shadow work, or this resurgence of inner pain and turmoil. That's because there's always a balance that's trying to be had. The universe is perpetually putting things in balance, including the way in which you're awakened. So, moving forward, we look at the love that's inside of us, and this is the goal, this is the key to the dimension. Nearly every question you have for the spiritual path can be answered with love is the answer. In one way or another, this is what happens. So, now, when we get into love, there's another energy above it, and the energy above it is the first of the spiritual energies. Now, I've taught this course, I think, 7 times now. This is the 7th iteration of this program, and I still practice everything that I've just explained. But there's one thing that's changed, because I have grown and I have evolved as well, and that is the embodiment of spirit, the embodiment of your higher power, of the divine. This is something that grows over time. When you do your shadow work, when you reconstruct, harmonize your security, all of your emotional energy, your emotional wounds, all that shadow work, unraveling your mind and taking away the negative thought forms and creating healthy thoughts, clear minds, you're building a container. You're building a geometric shape around your body. Every shadow you harmonize creates a little bit more space inside of you. Now, over the years, I never really understood this until recently because this energy just blossomed in this new way, is that you're learning to develop a relationship with your inner spirit, with your higher essence that is the God of you, that knows everything about you, that has all the answers to your questions, has all of the answers to your suffering that can be relieved through the embodiment of your higher power. You're learning to understand this higher power because this higher power is actually all higher powers. Your higher power is connected to every single one of everyone else's higher power. It's one consciousness, but you do have the individualized expression in certain dimensions of your own inner power, your own inner consciousness. But eventually, you'll recognize as you continue to expand and evolve that it's one spirit. Yes, you can have archangels. Yes, you can have ascended masters. Yes, you can have goddesses and everything else in between. But it serves and acts as one spirit. And this is what I began to really embody more recently, is that I'm carrying that knowledge, that wisdom, that embodiment of the divine spirit with me. I can tap into it so easily because that container is now open for business. I've done the work. Now it's going to grow and grow and evolve into who knows what it's going to feel like in a year from now. But that's something that has changed, is that, all the work you're putting in, you're building a house for the spirit of yourself and all of humanity to reside in. All of humanity exists inside of you. All of humanity exists in everyone. So you're building a container for humanity. That's why they say doing the spiritual path and healing yourself is the best thing you can do for the world. So gratitude, appreciation, they're also very important to this dimension because they provide a very important balance. Because remember, this is a dimension of duality. And even in duality, we need to balance the way in which we relate to the creation, the way in which we relate to ourselves and to other people. Because you can't just continually take and receive. Because eventually you can shift your energy into self-serving energy. If all you do is ask and you receive, you're just serving yourself, taking everything everywhere. Even though you're happy, you ask politely, you're joyful, you're loving to yourself, constantly asking, but you have no gratitude. You have no gratitude. And gratitude is what completes the balancing vibration that allows us to ask for help, receive that help, and then balance the equation through appreciation. This is what keeps you as a service to others alignment. Staying in that balance of anytime you receive, you share the experience with appreciation, because that's how you work with spirit. Spirit doesn't want anything. There's nothing you can really give the divine because they're selfless. They're working selflessly. So how you share in the experience is giving gratitude, giving reverence. And these are emotions that have been programmed out of our dimension because they're not needed. We're in a self-serving dimension in which it's not required. You don't have to be grateful for anything. You just have to have resources. So that's going to create a mentality, ever so subtly, but it still creates it collectively. Here's your cash, here's your product. You don't have to be any particular way. You just buy everything. So it creates a self-serving alignment. And it takes someone to be grateful to balance out that equation. So, all right, check out the comments real quick. Okay, so we're doing really good. We're almost there, just about done. So once again, to kind of recap some of these keys to the dimension, it all begins with your sense of security. Find security. This is the biggest place you're going to gain all of your power. Become self-acceptance. Accept not only yourself right now, but the potentialities of what you could have been. If you had different hair color, or if you were different gender, or if you were more wealthy, or if you lived in a different place of the world, would you still accept yourself the same way that you do now? It's a very powerful practice to get into that habit, to help you bridge into unity. And then we get into clarity. Clarity is the gatekeeper to higher consciousness, having a clear mind with the intention to receive a spiritual connection or spiritual truth. Clarity is the gatekeeper that will trap the majority of people in karma. It will trap the majority of people in their current frequency, not being able to experience any other frequencies because the experience comes from within. Opening up that feeling body, transcending into the harmony, the harmonization of the heart. The heart is and serves as a function to yield us and bring us into the next harmonic stage of consciousness. So learning love, learning empathy, learning compassion, these vibrations, these frequencies, when you embody them, the wisdom comes from within. Forgiveness is what severs the connections to karma. So if you cannot forgive, then you will be connected to those individuals to perpetuate your karmic cycles. So the fastest way to end your karmic cycles and keep all of your energy and release all the emotional cords to everyone else and everything else is forgiveness. Forgive, forgive, forgive. All can be forgiven. But sometimes you don't know how to forgive. And that's fine. You just become forgiveness and the wisdom will come through. Because this isn't the dimension of knowing, it's the dimension of choosing. Your choice is what guarantees your experience. Only through action. Idleness, inaction are the worst traits you could possibly have in this time frame. Do anything, build anything, find your purpose. Your purpose is what drives your desire, your passion. Gratitude and appreciation is what completes and balances the equation to a service to others alignment. Understand that the spiritual path is a duality and there are two ways you can evolve your mind. There is a dark side, a self-serving side. It's not talked about, but it exists. And there are a lot of people who are self-serving, who are practicing service to others' behaviors, but energetically they're pulling in for their own benefit, for their own agenda. And you can see and read this agenda when you make eye contact, because when you've made it to the levels that I've made it to, the truth becomes more clear, your intuition becomes more keen, because you're not judging. You're just observing. You're learning how to observe. So these are the emotional keys to allow us to ascend to the next level of consciousness. There are only two ascending energies, and that is through love, and that is through the third eye. These energies are trying to reconnect themselves. Humanity has been stuck in a fall of consciousness for a long time. And there's been a severing of our heart from our minds. But we're reestablishing that connection. We're drawing out that heart, that feeling body, and allowing it to reconnect. As many people will awaken to their third eye first before they awaken into love. Love is the mastery skill. Third eye, for many of us, may be very, very easy. But it's more difficult to be a master of love. And you'll get more benefit, more joy, more satisfaction when you master love. So this is the Emotional Keys to Ascension. This is the very first lecture to my 16-week program. That this was week 1. In week 2, we go right into learning how to work with crystals. Many of us are so fond of crystals, but just like this lecture, there's a lot of pieces that are missing in people's practices. And I've learned so much through the work of crystals that I can't even begin to tell you how incredible the consciousness of crystals and how it relates to human consciousness and how it can help us grow. But there is a language. There's a language, and when you understand the dynamics of relationship, of how you relate to the crystal consciousness, you'll learn how to maximize the connections, maximize the way in which you receive energy and information. The biggest thing I see people do nowadays, and I used to be this, I was guilty of this, my pockets would be lined with crystals. Grabbing them, doesn't matter which ones, and what happens over time is you begin to disempower yourself with crystals, but that's not the proper relationship. You don't need any crystals, you need nothing. And it's really hard because I love them so much. I have so many cool pendants and masterful stones, but eventually I trained myself like I need none of that. I could do without any of them. But I love them so much, and that's where it gets all so powerful, because I do love them so much, and I do understand how to utilize them to help in my goals of service that are unmatched from what I have seen in crystal consciousness and crystal connection. And that gets into more specific and advanced grid work. That yes, anyone can just throw a bunch of crystals on the ground in a little fancy shape and order, or hold them or show them. But it's more like a tool. And most people won't see what's going on behind the scenes with the grid that I'm using, but they will most certainly feel it because it's a part of my consciousness. So this program continues to evolve through crystal consciousness, learning how to lucid dream, learning how to integrate and heal the shadow, learning how the higher consciousness works with the collective, learning how to channel, learning what the empath in the relationship to the narcissist mean, and understanding that dynamic. So there's so many ways in which each one of these lectures builds on top of the first one. Everything builds off this first lecture and evolves and creates a deeper and more intricate puzzle that grows and evolves. Even though we're learning different topics each week, I still relate everything back to the overall picture of what it means to be alive right now in this time frame. And that is what is most important. So if you want to take your spiritual path to the next level, take this class. I guarantee you I will teach you things that you haven't learned before. If you're really serious, like, these are all the wisdoms that you can only get through practice and meditation. And that is where I excel. All my healing abilities through the hundreds of, probably thousands, I've probably worked with thousands of people at this time in regards to energy healing. All of that experience, all of that meditation, that know-how, that wisdom, I disseminate all of it through the way in which I've learned lucid dreaming, the way in which I've learned how to connect with crystals, and how it continues to relate. So, that will about do it. So thanks again, everyone, for joining me in this lecture. And if you want to sign up, if you want to make that commitment and join me, this is a huge part of my well-being, of my service that I offer to humanity. And so all of the proceeds is going to continue to keep this mission going, and makes it easier for me to share this with more and more people. So your funds, your hard-earned resources are going to someone who truly, truly cares about the state of the collective consciousness. So if you have any questions, let me know about what I can do to help you. I typically do 4 payments, your deposit plus 3 more. But if you need a very specific plan or a very specific, if you have a specific monthly allowance, just let me know. I'll be happy to work with you and come to some type of arrangement. All right, and lastly, yeah, definitely throw some emojis out there. For those of you who watch this live, thank you so much. It helps the algorithms grow, so throw some hearts out there, throw some likes. It really helps me. If you haven't liked this video, please do so. And yeah, I had a very, very fun time talking about this. This is one of my biggest passions, is understanding the mind and what it means to be here in this place. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to be sending out messages the whole rest of this week to get people signed up and to get this program going. This is my main offering of the whole year. So if you feel called or you really want to learn a little bit more, please let me know, and I'll be happy to give you some more information. I'll drop a link on, if you do want to sign up and you do want to commit, here's a link to sign up right now, and I'll put that on here right now. And you can see all of the courses that I'll be teaching. So I have that pinned, so you guys can check it out. Please talk to me if you're even remotely interested. I will be able to help you out, and we'll get through this. So, all right, everyone, that is going to do it. All right, let me make sure. Yeah, and if you watch this video, hashtag replay, hashtag live. So, all right, everyone, very nice to meet you, and I look forward to connecting with all the new faces and new people as well. So, have a great one.